Welcome to the Techne Automotive podcast, aimed at inspiring the next generation of EE-related talent to choose a career within our space, whilst also supporting the current EE talent pool in making key career decisions. In each episode, we interview industry leaders to discuss their unique career paths, advice for those starting out in the automotive industry, as well as important issues currently impacting the sector. My name is Ferris, and I'm responsible for connecting automotive businesses to the best EE-related talent. Today we are joined by Dario Bignamini from REE Automotive, who currently heads up the Project Management and Engineering Management division. Dario has a great story that I'm really looking forward to hearing about. Originally from Italy, he has travelled around the world and now resides in the UK. He has blended experience from across the automotive industry, working with renowned businesses such as Maserati and JLR, as well as a variety of pioneering startups. Dario's innovative vision and leadership skills have enabled him to design world-class projects and grow accomplished teams. In this episode, we'll discuss Dario's tips for building a successful team within the space, as well as key challenges impacting the sector. Hi, Dario. First of all, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you, Ferris. Thank you for asking. Nice day today.
Absolutely. And just before we get started, do you want to just introduce yourself, Dario?
Yeah, I'm Dario Bignamini, and at the moment I work for REE Automotive. I'm head of project management and engineering management in REE. That's what I do. I work in the UK, but my background, I'm Italian.
Listen, I'm really looking forward to going through your career with you. You've got a great story to share with people. But before we do that, who's Dario outside of work?
Yeah, Dario, I like to say that Dario is the same person at work and outside of work. So I have the same passion outside and at work. So of course, automotive, but it's not just that. It's like everything that is technology, new technologies, engineering complexity. That's my passion outside of work. That's why I chose that work. So I'm happy to say that, and I can do my work as a passion. But apart from that, from the engineering side and technology, I'm really into sports. Open air, any sport that is team sport, but individual as well, football, skiing, table tennis, whatever. Yeah. Really, I'm quite an active person, so I try to mix whatever is like work with active lifestyle. And I'm happy to share that I just have my home family now with a little kid that came at the beginning of this year, so in January 2023. So yeah, of course, now another important part outside of work is my family. So work-life balance is really important.
Absolutely, I've joined you on that journey. I had a little boy just at the end of January itself, so it's
amazing.
Yeah,
congratulations.
And vice versa. Obviously, we'll go through your career, and you started in Italy. That's where you're from, and you started in industrial design, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I started. From my education, that's what I studied. I studied basically my bachelor's was in industrial design, and then I wanted to get more into engineering, and so I did a master between engineering, mechanical engineering, and industrial design. Completed my studies in Italy. Traveled a little bit during my studies and did a bit of experiences here and there, UK and Australia. But then I started my work in Italy, and I had the opportunity there working for a company called Thule, where it was a mix of different things, and I was same time working for the product management team, but for R&D and product development as at the same time. So I had a complete view of the whole company, and then I transitioned. That was my first experience, but then and the student started basically working in the automotive field, doing automotive components mainly. But then I transitioned into more like R&D or engineering role. Firstly, a brief stint in working on tractors with the Summit Oxfa, and then my biggest stint in Italy was for Maserati, where I worked almost 5 years there. Really interesting experience.
No, absolutely. What was the story? I think I put it down here as 2008, but was it yourself? You thought of an idea, didn't you, to put everything on an app?
Yeah, no, that was an interesting story. So at the time, like I was saying, did my second year of the bachelor in London at Brunel University, and we had a collaboration with Bentley at the time, and we had to came out with a novel idea for the automotive world. And at the time, it was 2008, and my idea was, and it went to the final stages. So it was really Bentley was really pleased about it, but it was basically put everything on the phone. So you can control the car, your car keys were everything on an app on the phone. And I think that this is happening now. We are 2023, so 15 years later. So quite pleased about the idea.
Absolutely, way ahead of the curve. Way ahead of the curve
Yeah.
completely.
Ahead of the curve, we're just lucky, but it seems like a good idea at the time.
Absolutely.
It still is.
Absolutely. And obviously, proud moment working for Maserati. And I think, was it Clean Sheet Design? You were designing one of the first SUVs for the company, weren't you?
Yeah, no, my job at Maserati was really challenging, but a really good experience because I started from scratch, from nothing, and we put together the first SUV for the company. And I started as working in Modena, so where the engineering center is, working on as a virtual validation manager, growing my team, doing all the virtual validation. So everything was virtual. And then I was chosen to transition into the manufacturing world. Again, all virtual because we created all the manufacturing line in a virtual room. At the time, it was, again, I think it was 2014, 2015. And at the time, it was just like, it's not like virtual reality like it is now with Oculus or stuff like that. It was more like some glasses with sensors. But we saw like we created the whole assembly line based on the product. And based on the virtual world, nothing existed. And then we created, of course, like we built the reassembly line. And then from there, I launched as a launch manager every product for the SUV, of course, for the Maserati Levante first, and then every other model year. So I was responsible for all the engineering launch of new models, basically.
Absolutely. So you're way ahead of the curve for the phone app idea. Then you're way ahead of the curve in the virtualized world. You're doing well. You're doing well at the start.
Yeah, again, maybe just luck, but no, it was really interesting, and I was really surprised when I saw it first time, and I started working on it because I didn't know it existed. And there was this company at the time that did it for Maserati or for FCA Group, basically creating this virtual room where you can actually have these glows and these glasses, and you can start it like creating the assembly line and creating like all the station for the assembly line just in a virtual world. So it was really interesting.
Really interesting. And then you embarked on coming to the UK, wasn't it? You came to Jaguar Land Rover at that time.
Yeah, mainly like the reason was it was really interesting in what Jaguar Land Rover was doing for the future. Seemed a really good opportunity for me to work on electrification and autonomous driving. So future model years, 2022, 2023, working on ADAS, of course. And it was interesting. It was a good job. It was part like of the vehicle engineering team, and working on little projects as well. So, for example, one was the Defender V8 that came out, I think, last year. I was working at the time. I think it was 2018. It was interesting projects. The only thing maybe I can say about that is maybe this time I was a little bit unlucky, but all the project got kind of like delayed or cancelled. I mean, the main reason is, and we all know it. We thought like autonomous driving was supposed to be ready a few years ago, maybe in 2020 or something like that, but it's not ready yet. The world is not ready to go to that change to go fully autonomous. So maybe mainly all the project I was working on, they were a little bit delayed or cancelled if they didn't have the right content.
Yeah, no one understand that. And then the startup journey it began with Clear Motion, wasn't it? Your first one.
Yeah, first startup, and I actually really enjoy going to the startup world. It's something that I suggest everybody to do sooner or later. But yeah, I wanted to go on the side of creating something new. And of course there are challenges in creating something new because then the market needs to take it. but no, it was first startup, Clear Motion, doing active suspension, something that nobody has ever seen before. And really like Clear Motion contacted me and they made me try a demo of one of their vehicles, and it seems like being on a magic carpet when you're like in a comfort mode, and at the same time you were like on a sport car. just with the active suspension, even if you were not on a sport car with the sport mode. So it was really interesting product. It was like, I want to be part of the journey, and it's been amazing journey. Doing some demo for top executives in the world, for top companies, OEMs. Hell on amazing journey, I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then another great startup that, people are probably familiar with by now, Arrival, came knocking, didn't they?
Yeah, and then I think maybe like it's me like always looking for a new challenge, but by the time I left Clear Motion, I knew all the signs out of that technology, and again maybe it was a bit unlucky the fact that perfect technology for luxury vehicle, sport vehicle, but perfect for autonomous driving as well. And again, it was a bit slow because autonomous wasn't ready yet, so it was like, wanted to go on the rival journey where trying to electrify the transport, the commercial transport sector. That's what I wanted to do. So I started engineering manager for the van platforms there. A bit of a challenge because again, even if like the amount of people that they were in Arrival, like 3,000 people at the time, I was there. It seems like an established OEM. It was still a startup for a lot of aspects, and really cool and environment where to work with, really smart people to work with. But as a startup, you're facing challenging, and again, possibly not Arrival's fault, but they went into spend a lot of money with a market that at the time where I joined is still like could raise money if you needed to, if you're doing an amazing product, right? But the market for different reasons outside of the automotive world, of course, changed quite swiftly and it became impossible basically raising money. And so every project was sort of cancelled and tricky position to be in. But for the time I stayed in, I was really happy what I achieved. We managed to send the first van, the P4, to homologation, and it succeeded. So really pleased for the work I've done there at that company.
Absolutely. And now you're obviously sat at REE. How's everything going at REE for you?
REE, really interesting company. Again, amazing product, and is a completely new technology. I think the best thing about REE is focus on this new technology that would be a first in the market, fully by-wire technology, all in the corners, allowing maximum flexibility, modularity, and many other benefits. But what I really like about REE is the focus on one single product. Say we are doing this, is flexible, is modular, and basically keeping like the right number of people, not overshooting for something that then become impossible, then you cannot sustain anymore. If you try to become a major OEM, then you need either the history or the money behind a major OEM, and we can see in all the automotive world, transport world is like that at the moment. So again, that's my passion, is a new technology, and I want to launch, and I did that throughout all my career. I want to launch something new in the market or participate in doing that, working from the engineering side, make what's best for the company, and try to create something new to disrupt the market. That's what I like to do. So I love being part of REE.
Absolutely. And looking back in your career, you mentioned a couple of interesting projects already. Obviously, the Defender V8's a really interesting one. But what's been your flagship moments? If you look back, what you're actually most proud of so far?
Yes, exactly. So I think the flagship moments, what I'm really proud of, first thing, of course, working for Maserati as an Italian, like one of the best Italian brands. I should say the best because I work for it, but no, one of the best for sure. And launching the first SUV for the company, that was a big challenge. Working together with the whole FCA group, the Chrysler, where they had some experience in doing that, and launching the product in a record setting, 22 months from scratch to production to SOP, 22 months. Target was 2 years. We did 2 months less, and then we hit the record selling. For Maserati, there was like 50,000 vehicles a year, and just the Levante was 36,000 in 2017. So I'm really proud of that, and is the first time either startup OEM where I've seen launching a product in less than 2 years. So that's what I really like about Maserati. Then if I go to Clear Motion and I think about the product itself, the feel when you are on a car with active suspension, I hope everybody feels it sooner or later. I hope it really gets through as a product because it's amazing. And working with, again, top executives in the automotive world, CEOs from top OEM companies, amazing. Like the feeling when you are there and you have that product working perfectly, that's an amazing feeling. Arrival, maybe touch base a little bit before getting the first product, the P4 van, getting it homologated, certified, ready to go into production. Big achievement. And REE is new technology, fully by wire. It gives like a lot of advantages in the commercial world now, like maximum volumetric efficiency, maximum flexibility and modularity, but at the same time is ready for what I believe is the next step, is the autonomous driving, and is already inside REE technology. There is full redundancy to go for the by-wire system, for steer by wire, brake by wire, drive by wire, and you have maximum efficiency because you don't have any more mechanical connections, hydraulic connections. Is really simple and efficient. So it's something that at the moment we have our vehicles out testing, and that's something I'm really proud of. And then we should be on the market really soon.
And that story is continuing, isn't it? It's continuing, certainly. So we'll stay poised for that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of the podcast, I actually really enjoy this bit. But if you could now go back to Dario at 16 years old, what would you tell yourself now you know what you know in the industry?
Yeah, no, for me, it's really simple. Always look, if I go to myself, but it's a suggestion to everybody that is 16 years old, that likes engineering and industrial design, is always looks for something that makes you happy. So you need to do a job that makes you happy at the same time. So work-life balance, but you need to do something that makes you happy. Another thing is always look for a new challenge. So try something that makes you busy, follow your passion, and you will get a lot of learning joining a startup or working for a new technology, and that they cannot take it away from you. Even if no startups succeed, everybody knows that, but they're maybe a little bit more risky. But there is risky for the company itself, not for the people that are in it, because they learn they can get there. They wouldn't get it in a major OEM. What you do there, the responsibility you take, you would never take in a major OEM, at least at the start. So all the learning you bring it with you, and you can bring it for the next company. And we know, like especially in the UK, the transportation automotive world, the engineering world is really good. It's really florid, I would say. So take the challenge, join a startup, learn from there, and then if you don't like it, you always have the time to change.
It's a great message, and I think to back up that message, I think if the industry is on a really bad decline, then there's risk. But obviously, we can talk about our insights and what we expect in the next 5-10 years between each other. But realistically, joining a startup, there is no risk. If anything, there's just an opportunity to enhance your skill sets. You get more ownership, more life cycle exposure. Ultimately, most startups are trying to change the industry, so there's opportunities to be exposed to next generation technology. And you've had first-hand experience of doing that, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think, especially now, we are talking to 16 years old, right? Or to myself, 16 years old. And I think in that case, when you're young, there is no risk in joining a startup. Of course, if you're thinking about I'm like 60 years old, and in 5 years I'm gonna go like to my pension, and I'm not gonna work anymore, I wouldn't say join a startup. Maybe if you like your job, stay with your job. But if you're 16 years old, and the learning you can get from there, the experience you can get, I mean, in 1 year, possibly you get like the experience you will get in 5 years of university, or even more, or 5 years or in any other company. So for me, it's not a race. It's actually something that makes you improve. My suggestion is that just risk it, try it, and see if you like it. And for me, it's like that. Like I really like to do something new, working on new technology, and I think you can do it more and take more responsibility in a startup than anywhere else.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you work in the automotive industry, it's it can be quite a hustle and bustle environment. It's very fast paced, isn't it? And I think something you've discussed with me is that balance of productivity, keeping up with the pace, but also trying to blend happiness, especially when you're trying to grow a workforce where everyone's on the right mission. That balance is key, isn't it?
The balance is between no, it's not between work and outside work. That as well is really important, but at work as well, you need the time to steam off, I would say, to do some activities together with the team. Like working with REE, for example, is really great where you have like table tennis, you have you have pool, you have different activities organized from the company where everybody can bond together. You have the time to discuss the same thing with a beer in your hand, play some table tennis that you have like in a meeting room or with your headphones on. So I think it's really alienating if you have like to spend 12 hours a day with your headphones on. And it doesn't matter if you are home or at work at that point. But if you get something different from your place of work, that's really important. You bond with your colleagues, you bond with your team, and that's, I think every startup, but not just every startup, every company should look at that. Should look at the right amount of flexibility, the right amount of fun at work, and make people work on a project and on a delivery base, not on saying, okay, you have to be in from 9 to 5, and that's your job. It should be more of that. That's what you need to do. Quite clear on what you need to deliver, and then let people do it the best way they can do it.
And a bolt onto that, isn't it? It's about empowering engineers and letting engineers be creative. It's not just, rather than dictating, empowering is absolutely key.
No, exactly that balance, and you need to trust your colleagues and your employee. First, you need to build that trust, of course, like what we discussed before. You can build it with team building or being all there together. And then when you have that trust, it doesn't matter if they work from home, if they work from the office, if they work from another country. But you need to build that trust first, and then you can work all together as a team. And I think that's, for me, in my opinion, solves everything about the what they say about, like, there are many discussions about working from after COVID, especially the working from home situation, working from the office, doing 4 days a week in the office, etc., or 4 days a week in general. But I think first you need to build the trust. You need to be like, look everybody in the eyes and then work together and work for the same goal, and then you can have the discussion. But you need that discussion first on how you build the trust, on how you create a team, and make everybody feel part of the company.
Absolutely, it's really good insights. Talking about insights, we look at the REE Automotive industry now over the next 5-10 years. If people are going to come into this space, is there any specific technical trends that you'd either recommend engineers to focus on, or what's coming up from an EE perspective?
Yeah, there is. I think from my experience and working on electric platforms, is try to commonize, to simplify the vehicle or the platform as much as possible, and commonize the voltage as much as possible. So it's not so easy as you said, because different systems at the moment, they have different supply, different voltages. But for example, in an ideal world, you would have a platform or a vehicle that have everything, all the low voltage at 48 volts and all the high voltage at 200 volts. That's maximum efficiency, right? You waste less energy. But if you cannot do that, at least try not to have 12 volt for one component, 24 volt for another, then 400 volts, and then 800 volt. Then you need a lot of DC-DCs, converters, inverters, PDUs, etc., etc. So if you simplify, you may basically make one high voltage system and then one low voltage system. That should simplify everything. And the higher the voltage, the more efficiency you have. So if you can go to that side, and I understand that it's tricky sometimes, because you want to produce a component, you design a component, and the supplier say, I cannot do this voltage, I cannot do the system like you want it. So you have to change maybe all your strategy, but sooner or later we will get there, and that's my suggestion.
Yeah, it's a great insight, and I think for engineers coming through, if you can turn your hands, or what I've seen, and please agree or disagree, but if you can turn your hand into specialising in inverter technology development, electric motors development, if we look at the overall eDrive system as a piece. And you can go in with the mindset of embedding efficiency. Great insight to what you've just mentioned. That's gonna be a great area just to really focus on if you can.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I can make an example. When I was working at Clear Motion, the active suspension for the energy that it requires can work just at 48 volt. There was no point in doing active suspension at 12 volt or 24 volt. Could just work 48 volt. The problem was every vehicle was not ready for the 48 volt. So you need to work with an OEM, you need to work on a vehicle, then you need to provide the 48 volt battery, the 48 volt DC-DC possibly. And that was raising up cost and efficiency, of course, because you need additional battery and DC-DC just for one system. So if you can simplify and work all in the same system, that drives maximum efficiency. That what I think should happen in the electrical world when we talk automotive.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we look at the industry as a wider piece, what do you see that is up and coming in the industry from your perspective? Is there anything that's going to impact the market?
Yeah, you see, coming from the industry, from the industry is again really related to electrification or having electrical components that can work in an autonomous world. So it's again autonomous driving, but it's not like maybe we thought about it 10, 15 years ago, where the world was getting fully autonomous or one entire country was getting fully autonomous. I think it's going to be more specific application at the beginning that seems to already work. So, for example, shuttle buses for airports or ports or for city centers in specific routes. For example, as a city, Miami is already doing it, not with a autonomous bus, but with an autonomous tram on a rail, but it's fully autonomous, no driver at every station. It just is independent. So they will do it, and other companies, they're already doing it for limited routes inside the city center with autonomous shuttle buses. So that's already working. And I think in 5 years, possibly, I hope so, or maybe in 10, it will be an entire city or an entire state doing that, switching to fully autonomous. And maybe starting from a city, and I can see that already kind of happening in Phoenix and Arizona. They're already trying all the trials for autonomous cars happen there, mainly because there is less people. There is more open roads where you can test the autonomous vehicle. So that's the first step. And then if it works for a city, then it can work for a state, then it can work for a country. So it's going to be little step, not going full autonomous. Even if that's the ideal state, really, in my opinion, it would be in 1 year, the first of January, 2030, we switch to fully autonomous in the entire world. Imagine how many lives you can save and how many accidents you can save just doing that. But it cannot happen like that for many reasons.
No, exactly. And one of the things that is happening behind the scenes and is coming to the forefront now, especially on the subject of autonomous technology, it's obviously the growing implementation of cybersecurity measures, isn't it, across the whole EE architecture?
Yeah, cybersecurity again is related, of course, to electrification, to EE, but it's related to autonomous driving as well, because we are getting towards vehicles that are controlled. 90% of the vehicle will be software. If it's not already 70-80% is software, but the future is going to be 90, even more percent of the vehicle is going to be software, no mechanical connection, no hydraulic connection. And when you think about that, cybersecurity is scary a little bit, or the security of the vehicle is scary a little bit, because you remove the driver, you remove all the mechanical connection, all the connection that make kind of the vehicle safe from a software point of view, and then you have the software controlling that. And where there is software, especially if it's over-the-air software, over-the-air updates, there is somebody that can get into that software. There are hackers that can get into the software. So that's the biggest challenge for autonomous driving. And it's not about me and you, Ferris. I don't think anybody cares about if we're an autonomous car, driving our car off the road or doing something. But think about the president of a country or really important people. if somebody knows they are on that vehicle and that vehicle can be controlled from the outside, imagine what can happen.
Yeah. It's. I saw that in the press, wasn't it? There's the Tesla competition. It was like a hacker competition, and they got into it. It's really interesting, but it's absolutely crucial. If the industry's going to progress into what we think and what we've discussed in this podcast so far, cybersecurity has to be locked in completely. Otherwise, there's huge risks associated, especially when that software, we look at software-defined vehicle piece. You just mentioned just over 90% of the vehicle will be more software-related. It has to be secure. It's that simple.
Yeah, it has to be secure. It all comes down to functional safety, to be functionally safe in terms of you want a safe vehicle, and your functional safety is not just anymore related to hardware. Actually, it's becoming like software related, where if somebody else can control the vehicle, it's not safe anymore, isn't it? So you have to find ways either like to protect somebody else from getting in, or just don't allow it, block everything from the outside. But then is a balance, is a discussion between over the air that is really useful and cybersecurity. So it's finding the right balance. That's the tricky part.
No, absolutely. And obviously the crucial question at the end, but from Dario's perspective, why would you encourage people to develop a career within our space?
There are many reasons, but I think is the best field, the automotive industry, the transportation industry in general, where you can see the technology be applied into production, be applied into real product. And I saw that throughout all my career. So I can say I'm really pleased about that, but everybody's pleased to see something they work on to be applied to something real. And there are other fields where new technology coming into production can become reality. But other fields, they're slower, or there are some fields where you just do research and it never happens, and it becomes a struggle. You want something you're working on quite complex, like it is a vehicle, to go to the real world, and you want to see what you're working on, drive around. Of course, and you don't have to be passionate about cars or about vehicles. If you're a passionate engineer about new technology, it's the right field to be in. Because you see complexity and you touch it with your hands.
Absolutely, and especially what's to come. It's the technology is not slowing down. If anything, we're going even more advanced over the next 5-10 years.
No, exactly. If you think about it, like what are people talking about like autonomous vehicle, autonomous transportation, electrify every single vehicle in the world, and not just vehicles on the road, but vehicles in the air as well. Electrify air transportation and make different utilization of airplanes. Now we're talking about all like these eVTOL and these kind of small planes that they can go from one city to a closer city. And it's all the transportation world in its whole entirety is changing. And it's where the new technology comes in, and it's the right time to be in. If you think about it, like petrol engines, for how many years they've been developed? More than 100 years. Now we are just starting on electric vehicles and hydrogen and any new technology that is coming in to make it greener, to make it more viable for the world. So it's the right time to be in, to start this career.
Absolutely. No. Listen, Dario, thank you very much for not only sharing a great career, sharing some valuable learnings, insights into what's to come. It's absolutely great. So thanks for taking the time to share everything with us.
Thanks to you, Ferris, and to everybody that's listening. So have a nice day, and it was a good experience.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Dario.